My inventory's full. Damn. I got a lot. Wait. Did I just get an idea in my head? What is that idea in my head right now? Ooh, a log. Wow! Such a cool log. What a log. How did I manage this? Oh my goodness! You know what, I'm gonna stop. Okay, I quit this round. Wound. Why a wound? Wow. Wound. 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 No. And if you don't know who this is, it's my friend. Okay, I'm in the party with him. Now let's just see what happens. Hey guys, I'm gonna watch the stream, even though I'm streaming. Wait, what if I'm streaming while I watch the stream that I'm streaming? Hold on, what's this? Oh god. Shut up! Shut up, co.org. No one wants to hear your butt. Psych, he's not my thing. Hello? Part 2. Hold on, ready? Mommy!
Are you happy to be home?
Yeah. And at least I can stream it again. Can't you see I was streaming? Sorry, that was my mom. What? Hold on. That person stream. Okay. Okay, I guess you can watch it. I guess bro can watch it. Broadcast to everyone.
Money. All people seem to care or think about is money and how to spend it and how everyone else is ruining it for everyone. So where did this
Oh yeah, by the way, I'm watching
well, if you've seen
Oats Jenkins. If you want to watch his channel, sub to him. Subscribe to Oats Jenkins because I'm watching him, and he can just sometimes lie.
Then the Egyptians
But he could
way too much grain to handle. If someone
shut
wanted to trade for a bunch of
his.
grain, they'd
Oh
have to
my
get
god!
all back to
I
the
hate
house.
this.
So someone thought, here's a special something that
Yeah,
counts as
look,
grain,
I'm streaming.
so you can
How much
get
good
the
is my stream?
This kept going as people started using pieces of metal and acting like they meant
Or something.
they'd use these things to trade for things rather than using things
To trade for things.
But at first this didn't work out.
Why am I just
Because
watching?
Like, cool nugget. And where's my grain? So eventually these metals were standardized.
Yeah, today we're gonna play Hammy.
Now they were great and all, but the people who were absolutely loaded had an issue. How do you carry around all these nuggets? Where do you even put them? Do you just have a dedicated
Water slide. Let's make a water slide, guys.
Then the Chinese came along and said, let's make some paper. But this was far from it.
Water.
The government had all this money,
Water.
so they could just literally make more.
Slide.
And honestly, that's kind of where we're at today. Basically, every country in the world
Water
has their own
slide.
currency or someone else.
Water slides.
Things like making bills hard to fake and digital currency through banks and cards are making things more convenient than ever. This is all great and all, but holy cow, nobody knows how to use money. People all over the world don't know how to manage money. Too many people know how to exploit money, and I don't know what's going on. The system is clearly flawed, and I'm clearly the one for the job. I will fix the world one piece at a time. So let's get to it.
Yeah, we're gonna fart.
Alrighty guys, so as you guys probably know, I like to start with whatever system, then tweak it from there. But I think we need to be pretty original on this one. I can't just take a US $100 bill and tweak it around. That's just what they already use in movies. No, today I'm going to make something bigger than that. The US is just one country. We're making our money global. That's right, every single continent is expected to use this as their main form of currency. Honestly, that's one of the biggest fixes I can do. Now all of these problems within and between countries will work out a little better. Simple as that. Okay, so now we're going to decide which bills to have and how much they're worth. So I'm actually going to follow America's currency just a little bit, but I'm going to make it a little different. So we're going to have bills for the 1, 5, 10, 50, 100, 200, 500, and 1. These bills are getting pretty big. So how much are they worth? The one bill is now equivalent to about 25 cents. So if we plug in all the numbers, 1 is 25 cents, 5 is $1.25. So montages are cool. Originally, Oates made good, not boring montages. Then he decided to calculate numbers and make it really, really boring. What's even the point of this anyway? So yeah, here we go. Montage 2. So the first thing we're going to add is a timer, just to make it more intense. Now let's add to that. Why isn't the montage ending? Actually, wait, the montage is over. Yeah, never mind. So here's all the conversions. So yeah, this solves a major problem in many countries. Currency that is way too small. Cents are cool and all, but when am I ever using anything below a quarter? So now there's not two sections for money, it's all just one unit of measurement. So what should we call it? I think it's gotta be one syllable and easy to say. Let's go with grain. Pay tribute to its origin.
Voila.
So yeah, 1 grain, 1,000 grain, and so on. Let's make a logo. So it's going to be the 1 and the G to represent 1 grain. Actually, hear me out.
It's like the LG logo.
Grain. That's the
But
grain.
instead of an L, it's
Actually,
a
that's
1.
kind of like a 4. So that's 1. We're just going to go up and down with the 1. A little more down so you can tell it's a 1 and a G. Very elegant. Now for the actual thing, money always had a physical deal to do with it. Most physical money at this point is a paper rectangle or a metal circle. Now these are great and all, but the bill has one problem right from the start. Here's the $1 bill, here's the $5 bill, the 20, the 100, pretty cool. Now close your eyes and tell me which is which. Great, now open your eyes. I swapped them. So yeah, you can see what I'm getting at. If you're blind, you simply can't have money or you will be deceived by all the terrible people in this world. So let's fix that. The first solution I thought of was adding Braille to the bills, but that would just wear off really quickly. So the only way to solve this is to make some fun shapes. They're actually all going to have the same sort of outline with the rectangle, so they're still easy to manage in walls and stuff. But we're going to do things with the edges to distinguish which is which.
What is this? Look at that.
Okay, so
Oh,
we got
yeah,
8
perfect,
bills,
I think.
1 to 50, then 100 to 1,000. So 1 grain is just going to have rounded corners. Pretty simple. 5 grain, we'll do the same thing, but flat, like so. 10, we'll just have a diagonal cut, like this. And 50, we're just going to do the same thing, but flip. That doesn't work. Maybe I do something else. 50, we'll do... 50, we'll just do this, like, circle cutout. You know what I mean? 50, we'll do the opposite of the 1 and do this thing, like movie tickets or whatever. 100, we'll keep a rectangle. 200, we'll do this little angle. 500, we'll do those angles, but on the edges. And 1,000, we're going to make real special and make the middle have a circle cut out. This is going to look top of the line, guys. Okay, now we got the shapes. How about the designs? So we want this to be cohesive and make them all look like the same style. So we got to make things look mildly similar while still being cool. So let's start out with this diagonal line. This will split the bill's color between light and dark. Now since all the bills have that left flat edge, we'll use that for the main subject. The one will be yellow, with the left side featuring a type of grain, let's just say an oak. Now the middle will simply just have the grain logo. It'll say 1 grain. Not in that color though. Great, there's the 1 grain bill. So I think you get the idea. I'm going to do a similar thing for all of these, so I'm just going to go rapid fire. The 5 grain is going to have a paper clip. Don't ask me why, it just feels right. And it'll be orange. 10 is going to be red with the water bottle. 50 is going to be green with the t-shirt. 100 grain is going to be a different green with birds from Egypt. 200, we got cyan with the monkey. 500, blue, a T-Rex. And the 1,000 grain is going to be a bit different. Since it has this cool hole in the middle, we can't put the logo in there, so instead, the grain logo goes on the left and right, showing itself off in a nice purple. Look at this guy. Let's design the back. Okay, so the back looks like this for all of them. Now it's clear you're supposed to look at the front because it's the cool side. Now for some bonus features. I kind of switched it. Bill now has a coin equivalent, ranging from small to big, 1 grain being about the size of a dime, and 1,000 grain being the size of a CD. The front just has the subject on it, so that'd be the t-shirt for the 50 grain, and the back just has the grain logo. So yeah, small to big based off the amount. We're still going to incorporate banks and cards and stuff, so that's all good, as long as they use grain. Now I mentioned that the 1,000 grain coin is the size of a CD, and as you know, the bill has a hole in it. The coin will match this, and it will actually be functional as a CD. Only those Christians will know the great knowledge that can be heard.
Yeah, you do look good, Mom.
As you can
Mom, can you give me some food?
I'll put a beacon in the oven now.
Thank you.
Alrighty guys, this is
Make me some gamers food.
Other money systems.
Give me gamer food.
Excited for grain to be the next big step in world peace, and yeah, subscribe.
Bro, why does it say the broadcast is started? To stop broadcasting, press the share button. Select broadcast setting twice. What does it say? Why does this it say the thing that usually pops up when it starts to stream? When it has like the thing that I have? Twice. What? It shows it twice, not. It usually shows it like one time. Okay. Odge. And have you heard of Dick? And I'm not saying that over YouTube.
Everybody knows about tic-tac-toe. Basically, anyone you ask knows how to play. It's the most basic game around. Take turns, mark spots, 3 in a row, bop, bop, bop. I can pretty much guarantee that you've played a few rounds yourself, and basically everywhere you go, you'll see the remains of past games drawn, carved, or placed. These markings trace back all the way to ancient Egypt. Again, with 3 men's Morris. This game was essentially the same as its modern counterpart with the whole 3 in a row thing, except for the fact that you can run out of pieces. Once each player uses 3 pieces, then they take turns moving it around 1 space at a time until someone gets the 3 in a row. Then the Romans came along and made the game worse by making it so you can move the pieces anywhere on the board rather than 1 space away. This means you could block someone's move instantly and it would never end. I don't really understand how this works. Over time, tic-tac-toe or noughts and crosses became what it is today, pulling in millions of players because of its simple rules and short game time. However, it still hasn't stopped evolving, with a ton of variations popping up all the time. Reverse tic-tac-toe sounds like what it is. You try not to get 3 in a row and force your opponent to get it. In no-tac-toe, you both use X, making it really hard to win without setting up your opponent. Then in wild tic-tac-toe, you can both either use X or O. In SOS, you play for points, trying to form SOS, as the name implies. Some versions have a bigger board, but treble cross has 1 big line, and that's it. 3D tic-tac-toe is what it sounds like. Then we got some really complicated ones like quantum and number scramble. These are all interesting takes on the game, but somehow all of these have at least 1 major flaw. So now I need to fix this game once and for all. Tic-tac-toe 2. Okay, get a grid going. So to start, let's clarify a couple priorities for this update. First, it's gotta be easy to understand, keeping the learning curve as flat as possible while keeping interesting gameplay. Going along with that, it's gotta stay easy to set up and play basically anywhere. The games can't take super long. Tic-tac-toe is everywhere because of how quick people mark their silly lines. It should appeal to casual players everywhere, but I think there should be a nice competitive scene as well. And last, it's gotta be fair. In the current tic-tac-toe, the first player has a huge advantage. To accomplish all these points, we'll take some good traits from the past versions, along with getting rid of bad ones. Now that we got that cleared up, let's get some things fixed up. Just to clarify a regular game, let's say X starts, then O, then X, O, X, O, and so on until, yeah, it's a draw. The goal is to get 3 in a row like I mentioned, but if you've ever played this game, you know that 90% of the time, nobody wins. Tic-tac-toe, more like tic-tac-tie, am I right? You might think this helps people not get hurt feelings, but it's such a simple game. Most people don't really care that they lost after a few seconds. So when nobody is winning or losing, it feels pretty pointless, along with being very annoying. So we gotta make a way to guarantee a win in every game. One route is to do what earlier versions did, where you can move your pieces, but that ruins the accessibility because you can't just mark it on a wall or something. You can't really move around ink and scratches, so that's a no-go. Or you could do the SOS stuff where you play for points, but that makes the game a lot less goal-focused, and nobody wants to tally that up at the end. We gotta think simple. Another way is to do what no-tac-toe does, where both players only use X's, meaning someone will get 3 in a row every time. This is a better start, but I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. And here's my first point. Who even decided on X's and O's? It's really simple, I get that, but let's get a more relevant symbol to replace them. T. This makes the name much more reasonable, with the tic-tac-toe representing the 3 T's needed to win. This is cool and all, but it's literally just no-tac-toe but rotated, so it has the exact same problems as before. So I still want the TTT thing, because it's just too perfect. So how can we split up the T between 2 people? I got it! Vertical and horizontal line will be the players. This is actually going to be sick. So imagine I'm playing as red or horizontal line against vertical or blue. I'll go here, here, here. So now blue wants this 3 in a row, but there's an occupied space. So what I do is also occupy the space. Then the game keeps going with red's turn. This does not count as a 3 in a row. You need to complete the triple T's, not the triple line. This way you need to be careful to help yourself, but not your opponent. Then the game keeps going until eventually one player gets the triple T and wins. This game is already a revolution at this point, but we gotta double check our work to be sure about the final product. Let's look back at our priority list. It's pretty simple in the rules, so we're good on that. It's just as easy to set up with these easy lines. Then it is a little longer to play because you need to connect matter too much. Besides, how often do you play one game of tic-tac-toe? This is much more competitive than the previous version, with a lot more strategy and no draws. And finally, this seems to be way more fair. The starting player seems to have way less of an advantage because both players need the T's to win. It's good to have our priorities set. Now we obviously need to have a name for this game, and this is a little hard to come up with. Tic-tac-toe 2 is the obvious one, and I think we're okay to call it that. The only complaint though is that it's kind of long to say with the T's getting in the way of talking faster. Then there's the silly answer where the creator names the game after themselves, like Tic-Tac-Oats. But I'm not a huge fan of that naming method, and I don't really want it to be permanently associated with Tic-Tacs. I like them a lot, but they're not very related to this game. But now that I think about it, why is it even called Tic-Tac-Toe? I mean, tick makes sense if you spell it T-I-C-K, like a tick mark, but T-I-C seems like it could be insensitive. Then tac-toe have nothing to do with anything besides silly alliteration. And I love me a silly alliteration. So I'm gonna steal that triple T thing because it works out with our new rules. First T will also be tick, now with, okay, the second T will be oat, after Oates Jenkins, who made the game. And the last T will be 2, because it's the sequel to Tic-Tac-Toe. Tic-O-2. Let's rearrange here. Cool, now that everything is set up perfectly, let's add some bonus features. The grid board is super easy to draw, and that's super important for the convenience aspect, so this is a completely viable game style. However, the mix of all these lines could look a little complicated, especially without the colors. So I think to contrast that, we should add back some roundness as a callback to the abandoned circle mark. We'll start with a big old square, followed up by 2 round ovals, and this forms the 9 spaces needed for these lines. And it looks much more unique, and it's way more functional visually, and it satisfies another T reference. Now for the deluxe version of the board, I'll draw this out professionally for those competitive players we're also catering to. Alright, that's sick, but I know you pro players might have also noticed, if the second player just goes always where the first player went, then no matter what, the second player wins. To prevent this situation from happening, don't do that. You aren't allowed to go on the space that was previously played. So for example, if red goes here, you can't go here as blue, but you can go here. This way you can still complete the T's, but second player doesn't have an insane advantage, thus fulfilling the 5th requirement completely. Alright, now let's add... I actually don't know. We made something pretty perfect, honestly. Tic-O-2 is simple for anyone to play, and it's a lot more interesting. Someone will always win, and it has a cohesive theme to tie it all up. I mean, seriously, I don't know what else to add without complicating it. So yeah, I think this is it, guys. Tic-O-2 is totally flawless for real. I expect every one of you to play at least one game in the next few minutes, and to spread it to every single person you know. Let's get Tic-O-2 on the Tic-Tac-Toe Wikipedia page, so then it can be spread worldwide. And speaking of worldwide, this video is brought to you by NordVPN. NordVPN takes care of your online security and privacy, which is much needed. For instance, if you just walked into a restaurant or coffee shop and connect to that free Wi-Fi, you just exposed yourself. Anybody can set those up and see data that you want to have protected. So NordVPN acts as a virtual cloak, concealing your browser history, messages, and other things you want to keep to yourself. They cover your tracks online, encrypt the data, and hide your IP address. Along with this, in one click, you can act like you're in a different country. This means you can watch shows and play games that are only available in certain spots. Many regions charge less for games and streaming services. This gives you even more value out of NordVPN and its virtual teleportation. And as a very nice bonus feature, NordVPN protects you against malware, giving you an even smoother online experience. You can get 4 months for free with a 2-year plan with code OATS. And it even comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, just in case it's somehow not for you. Head to nordvpn.com/oats. There's no risk with that 30-day deal. Use code OATS, all that. Subscribe. what happened to Oklahoma? There's always all this talk about politics, but I don't know why people haven't talked about how weird the actual United States are. Originally, the U.S. was just a nice clump of Native American land with no real boundaries other than nature. Then this dude came over and said, interesting, alerting Britain, who wanted in on some of that free land. The British looked at this chunk and called it Virginia. Then 12 colonies later, they compared sizes and decided it was time to move out for good. So after the new guys won a big battle, they learned how to look left and decided to follow in their dad's footsteps and take land that wasn't theirs. So they went west, each with a really big pencil, drawing intricate borders to these brand new states. Apparently this got too annoying, so they just went into straight lines, defining more and more states as they went, eventually leading us to the United States we have today. An even 50 states with very normal borders. Okay, you know where this is going. There are seriously so many issues here. Oh yeah, it's totally fair that Texas just gets all this, and Rhode Island is just the spectator seating for the football field that is Connecticut. There's all these weird lines, straight lines, and totally disconnected areas. This isn't brought up enough because I know you're confused about this too. So I'm gonna put this together piece by piece and fix this country. United States 2. If all this talk about the U.S.'s bad land management has you in the mood for some land of yourself, then check out today's sponsor, Established Titles. There's this old Scottish custom where landowners are known as lairds, lords or ladies. And Established Titles lets you get in on some of that action by letting you buy at least 1 square foot of land in Scotland. Since I own a plot of land, I got a certificate clearly stating that I am Lord Oates Jenkins, with a unique plot number which shows the exact location of my land. You can get your title on credit cards, plane tickets, and even dating profiles. But honestly, the best part of Established Titles is that with every order, they plant a tree, preserving Scottish woodlands and working with global charities to help regrow forests around the world. This makes a great last-minute gift for any occasion. You can give it to yourself, your friends, couples, and even your dog, or any other pet. There's a huge sale going on right now, and you can use code OATES10 for an additional 10% off. If you head to my link, the first 200 people to buy the title pack will effectively be within walking distance of my plot. We will build our kingdom 1 square foot at a time. So here we got the map. I think our first priority is figuring out the main border issue, the lines. People think, oh, why don't you just make them all even in size and in the same shape? That would be more fair. To which I say, which one is which? Yeah, nobody knows. So I think it's to our advantage to make the borders more complicated to be more easily recognizable. Like this chef gut here, going along with natural borders rather than imaginary ones. On the east, I think we're doing just fine, but this column onwards, I think we have some issues. Let's start with Texas. There's always this back and forth on and on about Texas leaving and becoming their own country. Okay, North and South Dakota have this fun little border here, and a bunch of lame ones. So I propose the Missouri River Split. Pretty self-explanatory. It'll just follow along the Missouri River. Still both Dakota, but with the lack of North and South, we'll have Left Dakota and Right Dakota. Then I started the video with this, but I'm actually a fan of the Oklahoma Strip, so we'll run with it. To the west, we got the 4 corners, and that's cool and all, but have you seen the Earth view of this place? There's this whole shape of orange and beige, this whole new dimension of red rocks and stuff. And right here, we got Goblin Valley. You're telling me that goblins are just chilling there? It's only a matter of time before the goblins forcefully expand, so we need to give them more land to keep them at bay. We're going to follow along this line, staying inside the green for the most part. This is going to be a new state, the Goblin Zone. This helps the Wyoming-Colorado square issue, but just to reinforce it, we're going to make this Idaho snake longer. These mountains will slingshot over here, take all this, and that'll be the guide for the Idaho snake. The Goblin Zone. So that's all still Idaho. That's usually called Colorado. Great, now let's talk about another big problem, fairness in the size. It's very clear that the West has much more land, so real quick, let's clean up the East. See all these guys? They are all now Newer Hampshire. West Virginia implies East Virginia, so we're going to solve this confusion by giving them all to Maryland. Man, this color issue is kind of complicated. Maryland gets this. More to Pennsylvania. Look at how clean that looks. Now, can we mention how OP the California coast is? All the stuff you hear about in that entire state is happening right along here. Clearly, they're just too good for the rest of the land, so we'll just give them the old Chile treatment. Coast only. This is for Oregon, this is for Arizona, this is for Nevada, and then this last piece, actually cut through Nevada to continue the Idaho state. You might be thinking this is too much of a nerf to Nevada, but Nevada's only character trait was Las Vegas anyway. That's a good point, actually. Cool, let's clean this up a little. We got another color issue. Now we gotta address a big problem, the states and the territories. We've always learned about the 50 nifty states or whatever, but it took me a long time to even know there was more to the United States than that. Territories are basically land owned by the U.S., but aren't necessarily super involved. There's a whole bunch of them kind of doing their own thing, but there's a few that have been in the talk for statehood for quite a while now. Puerto Rico, south and east of the U.S., tons of culture and people will bring it in as a state. U.S. Virgin Islands, it's right next to Puerto Rico. Actually, let's just make it part of Puerto Rico. Put this on here. Not to scale, I have no idea. Then finally, our country's capital, Washington, D.C. If Rhode Island was too small, this is even worse. Sorry about it. Alright, now it's time for those bonus features. The U.S. flag hinges on the fact that there's 50 states with the 50 stars, but that might not add up anymore. So now we're looking at 44 states. One major problem I have with the old flag is it just looks like a grid of dots. Like there's nothing special here. I'm not even thinking about stars. So what if we just made the stars the blue flag to represent the night sky, scattered with a bunch of stars across the background? Are there really 44 stars? I don't know. You tell me. Nobody's gonna count it, so it's not my problem. But to get the whole 13 colonies thing, we'll get the stripes from the original flag and put them on the right here. Yeah, it'll just be half and half. That's kind of cool. Now we're just going to kindly ask Canada for the rest of this strip here, so Alaska can feel more included. Actually, to make it a fair trade, they can have Texas. Cool, guys. The United States is 44 better than the last one, and it's as good as it's going to get. I'm proud to have been the one to fix this country and all its problems. This is actually currently in effect. I'm awaiting the confirmation letter from the United States government. That's all. Subscribe. In a fight, a scarf or a poncho? You ever debate what you should wear one day? Stuff like, should I wear pants or shorts? Or hoodie or jacket? Well, for me, this gets even worse because apparently I don't even know what clothes are called what. I mean, I like to think I'm not completely out of tune with fashion, but I'm definitely not really in tune either. Mainly with the names of different items of clothing. If you ask me what the names of each of these are, I'd say pants. One area of clothing I never really understood is pieces of clothing that go on your shoulders and they're primarily open and they don't really have a closing mechanism necessarily and they don't really conceal your body other than just draping over it. Now I know that was a weird description, but just imagine stuff like cloaks, ponchos, capes, anything in that realm. To solve the confusion, I decided the best way to remember their differences is to give them all stats for a battle. Then not only do we know which is which, but also which one is objectively the best. So let's get into the clothing battle. Here we go. Here's the stats we're going to use to help us decide the best clothes. Defense, how well it protects you from stuff like wind and rain. Agility, how easily you can move around while wearing it. Stealth, how well it covers yourself and your identity from others. Heat, how well it handles the hot weather. And cold is the exact opposite. Then I thought about having attack as well, but they are literal pieces of fabric. I've identified 10 pieces of clothing that I'd identify as this sort of vibe, so I'm just going to go piece by piece, giving a description and stats for each one. In order to be as scientific as possible, I asked a few other people about their opinions on what stats they would give, but I remembered I'm objectively correct about everything, so I ignored their opinions. To start, we got the cape. The cape is essentially a big fabric that connects at the neck. A bunch of superheroes have it, and probably every child ever has made a blanket cape at some point. There's a scale. Defense is pretty self-explanatory. The cape doesn't protect much but your back from maybe rain, but it can blow around, making that pretty useless. 2 out of 5. Actually, it also protects you from snipped hair at the salon. Still 2 out of 5. Agility, the cape isn't too bulky or heavy, and it doesn't get in the way of your legs if you're running away. 4 out of 5. Then stealth is similar to defense, just different intention. Cape could wrap up to hide more of your body, but still none of your head. 2.5 out of 5. For heat, capes are very flowy, but it would be kind of toasty being draped all over. We'll go with 2.5. Cold is the opposite. The cape can keep you warm if you bend over and pretend you're a turtle, but not super effective. 2 out of 5. I made that way too big. Alright. Okay, cool. Now we'll go with the cloak. Now, I honestly thought that this was a cloak, and that was it. But apparently there's a billion kinds of cloaks that all look different and have different uses. So to keep it simple, we're going to call it hooded cloak, which just means a long cape with a hood that connects here. Cloaks cover you a bit more than capes, so that's good for defense, and have a hood for extra protection. 4 out of 5. Agility is just behind capes at 3.5. This is much more stealthy by hiding the head, also 4 out of 5. Heat is just ahead because of the extra shade, 3 out of 5, and it's much better for the cold with that hood and more cloth, 4 out of 5. Now that you guys get it, I'm going to speed it up a little bit, just reading off the stats and then talking about the more notable ones. Scarf. Defense, 1, very speedy, 5. Then I actually put Scarf at 4 for stealth, because it can cover above your nose, and we all know how much someone changes when they take their mask off. Heat, 2, cold, 2.5. Now the poncho. Here we're talking about this, not this. Remember, these are open clothing. 2.5, 3, 2, then 3 for both heat and cold. I didn't even know what a shawl was when I went into this, but we're just going to imagine this when we give it the stats. 1.5, 2.5, 1.5, 1.5, and 1.5. Not a winner. Then the Witsora. I also found out about this for this video. Essentially take the hooded cloak, add sleeves, and make it thicker with fur or something. Remember, this still doesn't close at the front. It's just loose on your shoulders. Very defensive, stealthy, sweaty, and cozy. 4, 2 5s, and a 0. Not very quick, 1.5. Cool. Now the chlamys is this Greek thing that drapes over you, connecting right here at the shoulder. It leaves everything completely open, but it covers a lot. 2, 2, 2, 2.5, 3. Jill Motley is a type of clothing by the Aztecs. A sort of sideways cape with a bonus feature, covering up anything sensitive, thus raising the defense just a little to a mid 2.5. Then we got 3.5, 2.5, 1.5, and a record 4.5. Next is robe. This is pretty broad, but we're gonna go with essentially a cape with sleeves. No tying or connection in the front. 4, 3, 3, 2, 3.5. And now we have the last contender. There's not enough space. Give me a second. And now we have our last contender, the sash. This is what they wear at the beauty things, and I remember them from Boy Scouts. 05050. So now we have all these numbers. I'm going to use my expert knowledge to create a spreadsheet. This shows exactly what I was just describing, and I'm proving my teachers right by using math after high school. I'm going to create 3 battles, each with its own formula to decide who wins. The formula will give a score, we'll rank them up, and then we'll have the final standings. First off, we got the desert battle. This toasty battle is focused on which clothing can fend off the heat waves the best, but it still needs to stand its ground in the other areas. For this formula, we're simply going to add together the first 3 stats. We can ignore the cold aspect because you'll find none of that here. Then since it's the most important factor, heat will multiply by the sum of the 3 other numbers. Next we got the tundra battle. This is literally the exact same as the desert battle. Swap these 2 numbers. Then for the main event, the final neutral battle. This is the no items final destination type battle. This is completely uninfluenced by temperature, but because of that, the first 3 stats multiply by each other. So I put in all the formulas. I learned how to duplicate the formulas in a really efficient manner. Then it revealed the results. Everyone, it's time to announce the rankings for the open shoulder clothing whatever battles. Starting with the desert battle. The expected last place goes to the Witsura, getting roasted along with the shawl and chlamys in 9th and 8th. Spicing things up with a tie, the scarf and robe take 6th with 20 points. Poncho and cape landing just below the podium. Then for the final 3, less is more with the sash in 3rd. Then keeping shade in 2nd, we got the cloak, leading us to the winner of the desert battle at 38.25 points, the Tilmotley. Great. Now for the tundra battle. The sash had no chance at 0 points. The shawl takes 9th, then the Tilmotley and chlamys cut it close with a quarter-point difference. The cape takes 6th, then the scarf and poncho take 4th and 5th. Then chilling in the 2nd and 3rd, we've got cloak and robe. With the unsurprising victory, we got last battle's loser, the Witsura. Now these are great and all, but now it's time for the main event. The final neutral battle, factoring in a whole new...
I know this is Minecraft Sunday, but
didn't add up, so we're leaving it behind.
today is also gonna, so,
5.6.
yeah, I'm gonna end the stream, just,
taking 7th and 8th, and we have another combined
so
effort with the
technically,
Scarf, this time with the cave.
so we're gonna start Minecraft, so we're gonna start Fortnite
Now
Sunday.
for third place, the Desert
So I'm gonna
Upset.
stream for that.
Last of the final duel,
Bye.
the difference of 20 points. First place goes to
Doofus.
the Hooded Cloak.